Have you ever felt a strange tingle down your spine when you walk into a room? Or maybe you've had dreams that came true in real life. If so, you might have some amazing spiritual powers hiding inside you. Today, we're diving into 10 weird signs that show you might be more intuitive than you think. Get ready, because what you're about to learn could change how you see yourself forever. Now, you might be wondering, what are intuitive spiritual powers anyway? Well, it's like having a superpower, but instead of flying or turning invisible, you can sense things that others can't. It's like having a special connection to the world around you that goes beyond what your five senses can pick up. The cool thing is, everyone has these abilities to some degree. But for some people, these powers are super strong, and you might be one of them. As we go through these signs, I want you to keep a mental tally. Count how many of these weird signs you recognize in yourself. You might be surprised at how intuitive you really are. And don't worry if you don't have all of them. Even having just one or two of these signs means you've got some serious spiritual potential. Let's kick things off with our first weird sign. You're basically a human mood ring. What does that mean? Well, have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt happy, sad, or angry for no reason? Or maybe you've been around someone and started feeling exactly what they're feeling, even if they haven't said a word about their emotions. If this sounds familiar, congratulations. You might have the gift of empathy. Empaths are people who can pick up on and even absorb the emotions of others around them. It's like you have an emotional radar that's always on, picking up signals from everyone nearby. Here's an example. Imagine you're having a great day, feeling on top of the world. You walk into work and suddenly, without anyone saying anything, you start feeling down. Later, you find out your coworker just got some bad news. That sudden mood change? That was you picking up on their emotions before you even knew what was going on. Being an empath can be both a blessing and a challenge. On one hand, it makes you incredibly understanding and compassionate. You can really connect with people on a deep level because you literally feel what they're going through. On the other hand, it can be overwhelming. You might find yourself feeling drained after being in crowded places or around people with strong emotions. So how can you make the most of this gift? First, start by paying attention to your feelings, especially when they seem to come out of nowhere. Ask yourself, is this feeling really mine, or am I picking it up from someone else? This awareness can help you separate your emotions from those of others. Another tip is to practice grounding techniques. This can be as simple as imagining roots growing from your feet into the earth, anchoring you. This can help you stay centered and not get swept away by other people's emotional storms. Remember, being an empath is a superpower. It might take some getting used to, but once you learn to manage it, you'll have an amazing ability to connect with others and understand the world in a unique way. Moving on to our second weird sign. You're really good at reading between the lines. This isn't about being a bookworm, although that's cool too. It's about understanding what's not being said. Have you ever been talking to someone and you just knew there was more to the story than what they were telling you? Or maybe you've had a strong feeling about what someone was thinking, even when their words were saying something completely different? If so, you might have the gift of claircognizance, a fancy word that basically means clear knowing. People with this ability are like human lie detectors, but it goes beyond just spotting fibs. You pick up on subtle cues that others might miss, a slight change in someone's tone of voice, a quick facial expression, or even just a vibe you get from them. It's like you're tuned into a secret frequency that broadcasts people's true thoughts and feelings. Here's a real-life example. Imagine you're at a friend's birthday party. Everyone's laughing and having a good time, but you can't shake the feeling that the birthday girl isn't really happy. Later, you find out she's been going through a tough time, but didn't want to ruin the party. That's your intuition at work, picking up on the truth behind the smiles. This ability can make you an amazing friend and confidant. People might find themselves telling you things they've never told anyone else, simply because you have a way of understanding them on a deeper level. You might also be great at giving advice, because you can see situations from many angles that others might miss. But like any superpower, this one comes with its own challenges. You might find it hard to take things at face value, always looking for the hidden meaning. This can be tiring, and sometimes you might read too much into things. To make the most of this ability, start by trusting your gut feelings more. When you get a sense about someone or something, don't brush it off. Take a moment to consider where that feeling might be coming from. Are you picking up on something in their body language, their tone of voice, the words they're choosing? It's also important to remember that while your intuition is often right, it's not infallible. Use your ability as a starting point for understanding others, but always be open to learning more. Ask questions, listen actively, and combine your intuitive insights with good old-fashioned communication. And here's a pro tip. This ability can be super helpful in your personal and professional life. In negotiations or important conversations, your ability to read between the lines can give you a real advantage. Just remember to use your powers for good. Our third weird sign is all about what happens when you close your eyes at night. Do you often have vivid dreams that stick with you long after you wake up? Or maybe you've had dreams that seem to predict future events? If so, you might have the gift of prophetic or intuitive dreaming. This isn't just about having wild adventures while you sleep, although those can be fun too. It's about your dreams being a window into something deeper, whether that's your subconscious mind, the collective unconscious, or even glimpses of possible futures. People with this ability often find that their dreams are more than just random images. They might be symbolic messages, warnings about potential problems, or even solutions to questions you've been puzzling over during your waking hours. Here's an example. Let's say you've been struggling with a big decision at work. One night, you have a dream where you're trying to choose between two paths in a forest. On one path, you see a bright light in the distance. On the other, the way seems easier, but it's darker. When you wake up, you suddenly have a clear sense of which choice you should make in your real-life decision. That's your intuition, using your dream time to communicate with you. This ability can be incredibly helpful in your daily life. Your dreams might give you insights into your relationships, your career, or your personal growth that you hadn't considered before. Some people with this gift even report dreaming about events before they happen, like dreaming about an old friend and then running into them the next day. But like any intuitive ability, dream weaving comes with its challenges. You might find yourself having intense or emotionally charged dreams that leave you feeling drained in the morning. Or you might struggle to interpret the sometimes confusing symbols and scenarios your dreams present. To make the most of this gift, start by keeping a dream journal. Every morning, as soon as you wake up, write down everything you can remember about your dreams. Don't worry about making sense of them right away. Just get the details down while they're fresh in your mind. Over time, you might start to notice patterns or recurring symbols in your dreams. These can be clues to understanding your dream language. Remember, your subconscious mind often communicates in symbols and metaphors, so that flying elephant in your dream probably isn't literal. Another tip is to practice setting intentions before you go to sleep. If you have a problem you're trying to solve or a question you need answered, focus on it as you're drifting off. You might be surprised at the insights your dreams provide. And here's something cool to try: lucid dreaming. This is where you become aware that you're dreaming while you're still in the dream. With practice, you can learn to control your dreams and even use them as a playground for creativity or problem solving. Remember, your dreams are a powerful tool for self-discovery and intuition. By paying attention to them and learning to interpret their messages, you're tapping into a wellspring of wisdom that's uniquely yours. We've explored 3 fascinating signs of intuitive spiritual powers: being an emotional sponge, reading between the lines, and weaving prophetic dreams. But our journey is far from over. There are still 7 more weird and wonderful signs to uncover. As we continue, keep thinking about how these signs might show up in your own life. Maybe you've already recognized yourself in one or more of them. Or maybe the signs that resonate with you are still to come. Either way, you're on an exciting path of self-discovery. Remember, having intuitive spiritual powers doesn't mean you're psychic or have supernatural abilities. It's more about being tuned in to the subtle energies and information that surround us all the time. These gifts are like muscles. The more you use them, the stronger they become. So, are you ready to discover more about your hidden intuitive powers? Let's dive into our next sign. Have you ever found yourself in a new place, but somehow you just knew which way to go? Or maybe you've had a strong feeling about where to find something you've lost, even when it doesn't make logical sense. If so, you might have the gift of spatial intuition, or what we could call being a human compass. This isn't about having a perfect sense of direction, although that's a cool skill too. It's more like having an inner map that guides you, even in unfamiliar territory. People with this ability often find themselves naturally oriented, whether they're in a new city or trying to find their way through a complex problem. Here's an example of how this might work in real life. Imagine you're on vacation in a city you've never visited before. You're looking for a specific restaurant, but you've left your map at the hotel. Instead of panicking, you find yourself feeling drawn in a certain direction. You follow this feeling, taking turns down streets that feel right, and suddenly there's the restaurant right in front of you. This ability isn't just about physical navigation. It can also apply to more abstract situations. You might have a knack for finding the right path forward in your career or relationships, even when the way isn't clear to others. So how can you develop this power? Start by trusting your instincts more. When you're trying to find your way somewhere, pause for a moment and see if you feel pulled in a particular direction. Don't overthink it. Just notice your first impulse and go with it. You can also practice this skill in everyday life. Try taking a new route home from work or explore a new neighborhood without using a map. Pay attention to how you navigate and what cues you're using to find your way. Remember, like any intuitive ability, your inner compass might not always be 100% accurate. But the more you use it and trust it, the stronger and more reliable it will become. Have you ever had a strong feeling that you've experienced something before, even when you know you haven't? Or maybe you've had a sudden flash of recognition about a place you've never been. If these experiences sound familiar, you might have the gift of temporal intuition. This isn't about actual time travel. Sorry, no DeLoreans involved. It's more like having a sense of time that goes beyond the usual past, present, and future. People with this ability often experience strong feelings of déjà vu, or they might have premonitions about future events. Here's how this might show up in your life. You're having a conversation with a friend, and suddenly you have the strangest feeling that you've had this exact conversation before. You can almost predict what they're going to say next. Or maybe you've dreamed about a place in vivid detail, only to visit it months later and find it exactly as you saw in your dream. This ability can be both exciting and a little unsettling. You might find yourself feeling like you're living in two times at once, or like you have memories of things that haven't happened yet. To develop this ability, start by paying attention to those déjà vu moments when they happen. Instead of brushing them off, take a moment to really experience the feeling. What exactly feels familiar? Is it just a general sense, or are there specific details that stand out? You can also try keeping a journal of any premonitions or strong feelings you have about future events. Later, you can look back and see how accurate these feelings were. Remember, the goal isn't to predict the future perfectly, but to become more aware of your intuitive sense of time. It's important to remember that having this ability doesn't mean you're bound to a fixed future. Think of it more like catching glimpses of possible paths. Your choices and actions still shape what actually happens. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the vibe of the place? Or maybe you've met someone new and instantly got a strong feeling about them, good or bad. If this sounds like you, you might have the gift of being a human antenna. This ability is all about picking up on energies and vibrations that others might miss. It's like you're tuned into a frequency that broadcasts the underlying mood or atmosphere of places and people. Here's an example of how this might work. You're at a party, and on the surface, everyone seems to be having a good time. But you can't shake the feeling that there's tension in the air. Later, you find out that the hosts had a big fight right before the guests arrived. Your antenna picked up on that underlying energy, even though no one said anything about it. This ability can be really helpful in navigating social situations and relationships. You might find that you're good at avoiding conflict because you can sense when tensions are rising, or you might be drawn to certain people or places because you pick up on their positive energy. To develop this ability, start by paying more attention to your first impressions when you enter a new place or meet new people. What's your immediate feeling? Try to describe it to yourself, even if it doesn't make logical sense at first. You can also practice energy reading in everyday situations. When you're in a public place, like a cafe or a park, close your eyes for a moment and try to sense the overall mood of the space. What do you pick up? Remember, being a human antenna can sometimes be overwhelming. You might find yourself picking up on a lot of different energies, especially in crowded places. It's important to learn how to turn down the volume when you need to. Grounding exercises, like imagining roots growing from your feet into the earth, can help you stay centered. We've now explored 6 fascinating signs of intuitive spiritual powers. Being an emotional sponge, reading between the lines, weaving prophetic dreams, having an inner compass, sensing time differently, and picking up on energies like a human antenna. As we continue to uncover these signs, you might be starting to see yourself in a new light. Maybe you're recognizing abilities you've always had but never fully understood. Or perhaps you're discovering potential powers you never knew were there. Remember, having these intuitive gifts doesn't mean you're separate or different from others. We all have intuition to some degree. Think of these abilities as tools that can help you navigate life more smoothly and connect more deeply with the world around you. In our next sections, we'll explore even more intriguing signs of intuitive spiritual powers. Get ready to dive deeper into the amazing potential of your inner world. Sign number 7. You're a natural healer. Have you ever found that people feel better just by being around you? Or maybe you've had the experience of touching someone who's in pain and somehow their discomfort eases? If this sounds familiar, you might have the gift of being a natural healer. This doesn't mean you have magical powers to cure diseases, although wouldn't that be cool? It's more about having a natural ability to soothe, comfort, and promote healing in others. People with this gift often find that they have a calming presence, and others are drawn to them when they're feeling unwell or upset. Here's an example of how this might show up in your life. A friend comes to you feeling stressed and overwhelmed. As you talk with them and maybe give them a hug, you notice that they start to relax. Their breathing slows down, their shoulders drop, and by the time they leave, they're feeling much better. That's your healing energy at work. This ability isn't just about emotional healing. Some people with this gift find that they have a knack for physical healing too. You might have magic hands that seem to ease headaches or sore muscles with just a touch. To develop this ability, start by paying attention to how people feel when they're around you. Do they seem to relax or perk up? You can also practice sending healing energy intentionally. When someone you know is feeling unwell, try placing your hand gently on their shoulder and imagine warm, healing light flowing from you to them. Remember, being a natural healer doesn't replace professional medical care. Your gift is a complement to traditional healing methods, not a substitute for them. Use your ability responsibly and always encourage others to seek appropriate medical attention when needed. Do you often experience meaningful coincidences that seem too perfect to be random? Maybe you think of an old friend and then bump into them later that day. Or perhaps you keep seeing the same number everywhere you look. If these kinds of experiences happen to you frequently, you might be a synchronicity magnet. Synchronicities are meaningful coincidences that seem to be more than just chance. They're like little winks from the universe, suggesting that there's more going on than meets the eye. People with this gift often find that they're in the right place at the right time, or that they receive just the guidance they need exactly when they need it. Here's how this might play out in your life. You've been thinking about starting a new hobby, let's say painting. Suddenly, you start noticing art supplies everywhere, in shop windows, in ads, even in casual conversations with friends. Then, out of the blue, a coworker mentions they're getting rid of their old painting set and asks if you want it. These aren't just random events, they're synchronicities guiding you towards your new passion. This ability can make life feel magical and full of meaning. You might find that you're often guided to exactly what you need, whether it's information, opportunities, or connections with others. To develop this gift, start by paying more attention to the coincidences in your life. Keep a journal of these experiences and look for patterns. What kinds of synchronicities do you experience most often? Are they related to certain areas of your life? You can also try setting intentions for the synchronicities you'd like to experience. For example, if you're looking for guidance on a decision, ask the universe for clear signs and then stay alert for meaningful coincidences that might point you in the right direction. Remember, the key to working with synchronicities is to stay open and curious. Don't force meanings where there aren't any, but do be willing to see the potential significance in seemingly random events. Do you feel a deep, almost inexplicable connection to nature? Maybe you find that plants thrive under your care or animals are naturally drawn to you. If this sounds like you, you might have the gift of being a nature whisperer. This ability is all about being tuned into the natural world in a way that goes beyond just enjoying a nice view. People with this gift often feel a profound sense of harmony when they're in nature, and they might be able to communicate with plants and animals on a subtle, energetic level. Here's an example of how this might show up. You have a knack for knowing exactly what your plants need, even if you've never grown that type before. Or maybe you find that wild animals approach you without fear, sensing that you're not a threat. You might even feel like you can sense what trees or plants are feeling when you touch them. This ability can make you an amazing gardener, animal caretaker, or environmental steward. You might find that you have a natural understanding of ecological systems and the interconnectedness of all living things. To develop this gift, spend more time in nature. Practice sitting quietly in natural settings and see if you can sense the energy of the plants and animals around you. Try talking to your plants, yes, really, and see if you can sense their needs. You can also practice grounding yourself by imagining roots growing from your feet into the earth. This can help you feel more connected to the natural world and might enhance your ability to communicate with nature. Remember, being a nature whisperer comes with a responsibility to be a good steward of the environment. Use your gift to help others understand and appreciate the natural world. Have you ever had moments where creative ideas seem to flow through you effortlessly, as if coming from somewhere else? Or maybe you've experienced bursts of inspiration that lead to amazing artistic creations or innovative solutions. If so, you might have the gift of being a creative channeler. This isn't about being possessed by spirits or anything scary like that. It's more like having a direct line to a source of creative inspiration. People with this gift often find that their best ideas come when they're in a flow state, almost as if they're just the vessel for something greater to express itself through. Here's how this might manifest in your life. You sit down to write, paint, or solve a problem, and suddenly it's like a faucet turns on. Ideas pour out of you faster than you can capture them. You might look back at what you've created later and wonder, did I really do that? That's your channeling ability at work. This gift can make you incredibly productive and creative in your chosen field. You might find that you have insights or ideas that seem to come out of nowhere, but turn out to be exactly what's needed. To develop this ability, practice getting into a flow state regularly. This might mean setting aside time for creative activities without any specific goal in mind. Just let yourself play and see what comes through. Meditation can also help you tap into this gift. By quieting your conscious mind, you make more space for inspiration to flow in. You might want to try automatic writing or drawing. Just put pen to paper and let your hand move without consciously directing it. Remember, being a creative channeler doesn't mean you'll always be in the flow. There will still be times when creativity feels harder. But by cultivating this gift, you can make those inspired moments more frequent and powerful. Wow, what a journey we've been on. We've explored 10 weird and wonderful signs that you might possess highly intuitive spiritual powers. From being an emotional sponge to a creative channeler, these gifts represent the amazing potential that lies within each of us. As you've read through these signs, maybe you've recognized some of them in yourself. Perhaps you've always known you were a bit different, but couldn't quite put your finger on why. Or maybe you're just now realizing that some of the things you thought were odd about yourself are actually incredible intuitive gifts. Remember, having these abilities doesn't make you better or worse than anyone else. We all have our own unique combination of strengths and challenges. What's important is learning to recognize and nurture your gifts, whatever they may be. If you found that you resonate with many of these signs, congratulations. You're likely a highly intuitive person with a strong connection to the spiritual realm. But even if you only recognized 1 or 2 signs, that's still something to celebrate. Every intuitive gift is valuable and worth developing. So what should you do with this information? First, take some time to reflect on which of these signs feel most true for you. Then, start paying more attention to those areas of your life. Keep a journal of your experiences, practice the techniques we've discussed, and most importantly, trust yourself. Developing your intuitive gifts is a lifelong journey. There will be times when your abilities feel strong and clear, and other times when you might doubt yourself. That's all part of the process. The key is to stay curious, keep an open mind, and always be willing to learn. Remember, your intuition is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So don't be afraid to lean into your gifts, even if they seem a little weird at first. Embrace your uniqueness and see where it takes you. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of intuitive spiritual powers. I hope you've gained some new insights into yourself and the amazing potential you carry within you. Keep exploring, keep growing, and most of all, keep trusting your intuition. Who knows what incredible things you might discover about yourself next?